Okay, here we go. Last week we talked about adding macros, and today we're going to talk about adding a button that you just simply click to activate the macro. So instead of adding it to a keyboard shortcut, we're actually going to create a button on our worksheet that when clicked is going to perform a macro. So first off, we have to get our developer tab up top. This can be done by going into your backstage area by selecting File and Options and customize the ribbon. And here we see the developer button right there. So that's way number one to get in there. The other way is to simply right click on the gray area of your ribbon, go to the Customize Ribbon and select Developer from there. Once you have it clicked, and we select OK, we're going to see that Developer now appears as a tab on our Excel spreadsheet. Pressing Developer, we're going to see that this, of course, has our recording macros and macro security and all the rest of that kind of silliness here that we've used before. And I'm going to draw your attention to this little toolbox here. When you select the down arrow, you're going to see that it has some form controls. And I want to draw your attention to this rectangle right here. We're going to click here, and we're going to just draw this on our sheet. I don't know, make it however big you want. And you'll see that as soon as you draw it, it's going to label itself as a button one click, and there's a little record button here. I'm going to call this particular button Add Subtotals. That's just going to be the name of it. Remember that when you're assigning a macro name, you cannot have spaces in your name, so make sure you do an underscore in place of a space, and if you're doing two words. So no spaces in a macro name. Once I have the macro set up, all I need to do is hit my record button and go to town. So my macro is actually going to add a subtotal. When I click record, it's going to take me to a place where I can add a meta tag description. And we know that metadata is important for people who have accessibility issues where they use a speaker, something that narrates the page for them. So we're just going to tell them what this button does, which is add a subtotal to a data set. Okay, so there it is. We're going to add a subtotal to our data set. I'm going to click OK. The second that I do, you will see that my recording has begun. There's my stop recording button up here. So to add a subtotal is really quite an easy macro to create. So we're just going to click anywhere within our data set, go to the Data tab, hit our subtotal button over on the far right of the ribbon, and we're going to make sure that at the change in the data within the column week, we're going to add sales, weekly goals, and bonuses. I'm going to click OK. That's pretty much all this button does. So now I'm going to go back to the developer and stop recording. Now, if you've made your button a ridiculous size, you can right click on the button. You can edit your text. So in this case, I'm going to add the information of what it does. Add subtotal. And at this point, I got my resizing handles, so I can size it to a different size. And I can also right click and format the control. So I can make my text a different color. So let's make this one a nice dark blue, and I can choose a different font. I can make it a different size, and I can bold it and all the rest of that fun stuff. Add margins, alternative text. You'll see add subtotals is the alternative text in there. I'm just going to click OK. So there's my add subtotals button. When I press it, it is going to add subtotals, which it has already done. That's great, but now I want to add another button that removes subtotals. I add it, we're going to take it away. So back up to my developer tab, my insert, and my form controls. I'm going to choose the button control. Here it is. I'm going to just draw it out sort of the same size, give or take, as the other one. And this one I'm going to call remove underscore, because we can't have any blank spaces in a name for our macro. So remove subtotal. And again, I'm going to select record. Off I go. This will remove the subtotals from a data set. Okay, now we're ready to go. I am recording. Everything that I click upon now will be recorded as part of the macro. So I'm going to select anywhere within my subset of information. I'm going to go to my data and I'm going to select subtotal. Once there, all I have to do is select remove all and done, deal. I go back to my developer tab, I stop recording. And now I know that if I click add subtotals, my subtotals appear. And when I remove subtotals, my subtotal disappear. Now all that remains is to format this button to match this one. So I'm just going to right click, edit the text, and we'll call remove subtotals. If I can spell subtotals. And again, by right clicking and formatting the control, I can choose a color. Let's choose a red color. Bold, Arial, 14. I think that's about the same as the other one. You'll notice that it didn't show up. You have to have your text selected. So make sure that you have selected your text. Okay? And now when I go to my format control and I do all the same things that I just did, choosing red, 14, bold, and Arial, it is going to then work properly. I have add and I have remove. Done.